Everybody, welcome back for Proverbs 23, verses 19 through 35. I appreciate you being here. If you've got any questions or comments, leave those in the comment section below. Likes and shares and subscriptions on YouTube are all appreciated, so if you could do that, would appreciate it. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and get started with verse 19. Again, Proverbs has kind of changed tones here. Solomon is more speaking directly to his sons and not necessarily in couplets or triplets like he was previously. And so it's back to more of a letter format. So we'll start with 19 through 21. Hear, my son, and be wise, and direct your hearts in the way. Do not be among drunkards or among gluttonous eaters of meat, for the drunkard and the glutton will come to poverty, and slumber will clothe them with rags. So here we see some of the, we'll talk about some different dangers of some different situations today. The first thing I wanted to point out was in 19, it says, hear, my son, and be wise. So that indicates that there's a decision to be made as to whether we want to be wise or not. And then it follows that up with, and direct your heart in the way. So this was before, if you remember, in the New Testament, the Christians were originally called followers of the way. So this is not necessarily tied to that. Obviously, this was before Christ and his coming the first time. But the indication here, I think, is one, that you have the ability to direct your heart, that you have the ability to kind of steer your heart, and then that will ultimately steer your destination or your outcome, and that there is a specific path that we should be following. And as part of being on that path, we would avoid drunkards and gluttonous eaters. So in verse 20 and 21 talks about not to even be among drunkards or gluttonous eaters, and that the drunkard and the glutton will both come to poverty, and slumber will clothe them in rags. So the ultimate reward, the ultimate situation that the drunkard and glutton will put themselves in will be poverty and rags. So, verse 22, we'll go 22 through 25. 22, listen to your father who gave you life, and do not despise your mother when she is old. Buy truth and do not sell it. Buy wisdom and instruction and understanding. Verse 24, the father of the righteous will greatly rejoice. He who fathers a wise son will be glad in him. 25, let your father and mother be glad. Let her who bore you rejoice. So, verse 22. This sounds kind of self-serving, but you know that it was. We know that it was written, obviously, to his sons as well as anyone who's reading it afterwards. But it says, listen to your father who gave you life, and do not despise your mother when she is old. Again, continuing that honor and respect for our parents on through life. As we've talked about before, this is not the first time Solomon has said this in Proverbs. But then in 23, it says, buy truth. So invest in getting truth, and do not sell it. Don't give it away. Don't be willing to sell truth, but hold on to it. And then buy wisdom and instruction and understanding. So again, make the investments in gaining wisdom, in finding instruction, and gaining understanding, so that you're able to have these things, that those are things that are worth investing in. And then 24, the father of the righteous will greatly rejoice. He who fathers a wise son will be glad in him. So again, our wisdom, our seeking of wisdom will bring joy and happiness to our parents. And it talks about it also in 25, let your father and mother be glad. Let her who bore you rejoice. So obviously I don't think that should be our driving factor, but our wisdom and seeking of wisdom will ultimately bring joy to those that have invested in us. And as we get older and as we gain more wisdom and as we share that wisdom with people that are younger than us, we will be able to harvest that same joy as they gain wisdom under our tutelage and by seeking wisdom elsewhere. Verse 26 through 28, my son, give me your heart and let your eyes observe my ways, for a prostitute is a deep pit and an adulteress is a narrow well. She lies in wait like a robber and increases the traitors among mankind. So the first thing I wanted to point out was in 26, he's saying basically, follow my example. So my son, give me your heart. Again, the heart being, the way that you guide yourself, the way that you're able to kind of control your destiny, for lack of a better term. But it says, let your eyes observe my ways. Another translation is, or delight in my ways. So let your eyes delight in my ways. So again, he's saying here, follow me, pay attention to what I'm doing and try to emulate that. And so our goal as fathers and as, those that are trying to distribute wisdom needs to be able to say to others, follow me, do what I'm doing. And to get to a point to where we're not ashamed to say that. We're not scared to say that. And Paul says the same thing. He says, watch what I'm doing and follow that. And so that's the position we need to put ourselves in. And then 27 and 28, he warns against sexual sin. Says a prostitute is a deep pit, an adulteress a narrow well. So it's pointing out that, this sexual sin is a deep pit. It's not something you can step into and step out of. It's not something you want to flirt with. It's not something you want to keep in your life on a casual basis. It's something we need to run away from and stay away from. But it's pointing out that not only is it a deep pit, that it doesn't seem to end, but that it's a narrow well. It's not something we can just climb back out of. One of the scariest things is when you see a child that's fallen down into a well, because when they fall in, if a child falls into a pit, if you think a deeper or a wider pit, it's just a matter of getting someone down in there to bring the child back up, right? Or being able to instruct the child a way to climb out. But when it's a narrow well, it's just, they may not even be able to put their hands over their head. They might not be able to tie a rope around themselves. They might not have that much room to move. And so not only is it deep and dark and dangerous, but it's difficult to get out. It's not something you can just walk out of or climb out of. And so this is comparing that, that situation to sexual sin, that it's not something that you just are able to get into and out of easily. Verse 28, she lies in wait like a robber and increases traitors among mankind. So, the prostitute, the tempter, in this case, whoever. Even now there's industries built around this temptation. They lie in wait like a robber. They're looking for you to let down your guard, so that they can take over your life. And it says that it increases the traitors among mankind. So traitor is not something that we typically associate with a sexual sin. Maybe excuse me, those that fall victim to it are a traitor to their spouse, their husband, their wife. But I think this is pointing out that that's just a step down. That's just the beginning of a step down a wrong path, and eventually it will lead your whole being away. And then verses 29 through 35, I'll go ahead and read all those at once. But this is a warning against drunkenness, a warning against alcohol in excess and how it can have an effect on your life. So 29, who has woe, who has sorrow, who has strife, who has complaining, who has wounds without cause, who has redness of eyes, those who tarry long over wine, those who go to try mixed drink or mixed wine. Do not look at wine when it's red and sparkles in the cup and goes down smoothly. In the end it bites like a serpent and stings like an adder. Your eyes will see strange things, and your heart utter perverse things. You will be like one who lies down in the midst of the sea, like one who lies on top of a mast. They struck me, you will say, but I was not hurt. They beat me, but I did not feel it. When shall I awake? I must have another drink. So here we see the dangers of drunkenness and how that path can lead. How that can lead to a dangerous path. We see woe, sorrow, strife, complaining, wounds, redness of eyes. All those are side effects of this this path that you fall down or stumble down, pun intended. But a couple of things it says, to watch out for. In verse 30, it says, those who tarry long over wine, those who spend hours and hours drinking, those who go to try mixed drinks. So mixed wine in this day would have been wine that was mixed with water and spices to make it more palatable and easier to drink. So you're going to an effort to make it easier to drink, so that in theory you could drink more. Those that kind of look at the wine when it's red in the cup and when it sparkles and goes down smoothly, they get into the intricacies of it. They get kind of wrapped into the romance of it, I guess. And it just kind of sucks them in. In the end, it bites like a serpent and stings like an adder. And I cannot say that I know what an adder is, but I have a feeling it hurts. But in the end, this path of drunkenness is detrimental, and I think we all know that. We've all seen someone who's been to the end of this path, and hopefully they were able to come back. But and alcohol in excess can lead to very dangerous situations, and so we need to be really careful with that. Verse 34 says, you will be like one who lies down in the midst of the sea, so one who essentially drowns to death, or like one who lies on top of a mast, or one who, this says, who lies on top of the rigging, so in the top of a boat. And then it talks about the physical dangers of drunkenness. They struck me, but I was not hurt. They beat me, and I did not feel it. And then, when shall I awake? I must have another drink. And that just speaks to the addictive nature of it. And again, points out that we need to be careful with it. So yeah, that's it for 23. We'll pick up with 24 tomorrow. Thanks for being here and checking these out. Again, if you've got any questions or comments, leave those in the comment section below, or send me a message. Likes and shares are greatly appreciated. It lets other people know you're watching and that these are worth checking out, and lets me know that you're here. And I appreciate it, and have a great day. Thank you.